Hello everybody, Jonathan Wolf here, and welcome to the final video of 2024. 2024 was a very interesting year for me since, well, it was my first year making YouTube videos. Now yes, I created this channel a long time ago, and yes, it hasn't been a year exactly since my anniversary is on March the 4th. But instead of doing an anniversary video, which honestly would be redundant since my anniversary is relatively close to the beginning of the year, I want to reflect on the things I accomplished during the year only, even though I will acknowledge my anniversary when the day comes. So what are we going to do in this video? Originally, I was going to do a retrospective and ranking of all the games I tackled this year on the channel. However, I decided to just make a recap of the year in general, talking about all the games I tackled this year, both Let's Plays and game I played on my spare time. I'm also going to implement the retrospective and ranking of the Let's Plays, but I'm going to do a very general recap of all games I did for the channel, and also rank them from my least favorite to my favorite, and even also rank the artwork that I did for them. So with that said, let's get started. This year, I tackled exactly 16 games for the channel, which means that starting next year, which is tomorrow, I will start with a brand new game and a brand new franchise even, which I will give more details at the end to tease you a little bit. Out of all the games I did, 11 of them were PlayStation games, while the other 5 I did were Nintendo games. For this first year, I was going to originally do nothing but PlayStation games, and that's mainly because the PlayStation 1 in particular was the console that I grew up with. It was my first console, and ever since I got into emulation, and mainly because of a certain website, it has slowly become one of my favorite consoles of all time. However, I feel that I was doing a disservice to both my love in video games and my love for Nintendo if I didn't tackle Nintendo games. And that's mainly because I've been a fan of them since my first DS back in maybe 2008, I still don't remember, to the point that I am now a Nintendo fan than a Sony fan. Well, to be fair, Sony has been doing nothing but idiot move after idiot move. I mean, Concord everyone, do I need to say more? But not to mention that I have slowly become obsessed with Nintendo music to the point that it has literally consumed my music hearing life at this point. And in fact, I also dedicated an entire video analyzing their Switch remakes, remasters, and ports, something that one day I'll do with Sony if they would just stop remaking the same 4 damn games every time. And of course, I decided to tackle these games in the best way possible, by doing Let's Plays, baby. And a lot of people may ask, why? Why make Let's Plays? I know that we live in a time where Let's Plays essentially died out and are now considered a lost art, to the point that YouTubers who used to do Let's Plays essentially dropped it and started focusing on other types of videos. But the reason I decided to make this format of videos is mainly because it has been something I wanted to do ever since I started getting into YouTube and video games, or video game completion in general. It was because of YouTube that I wanted to show my abilities in certain video games, whether games that are being held in pedestals as some of the greatest of all time, or games that no one has heard of, or games that have become forgotten by the sands of time. I just wanted to show my love of video games, essentially. And this is something that I want to do in the long run because it is something that I enjoy doing. Now, could it be full-time? Hopefully. Now, even though I was going to do Let's Plays no matter what, I also wanted to implement some aspects of the career I studied and graduated from, that being digital animation. So when I started, I decided to start with 2 things that would become a staple for the channel. The first one being the death counter. Now, I wanted to implement animation in my videos, but for a long time, I just didn't know how. So I decided to just make a counter when I suffered a huge death count on a particular video. And usually I do them when it's like 12 plus deaths, so if I suffered 11 or 10, then I guess I didn't put it. But I'm gonna start to change that, which I'll talk about later. And yeah, basically I animated the letters and just left them on screen with a counter, incrementing the number every time I died. Although, you know, the last time I actually used this counter was back in Crash 3. Now yes, I also used it in Alien Syndrome, but I placed the counter at the end of the video after counting all the deaths and, quite frankly, bullshit moments that I suffered throughout that game. And that's mainly because my biggest problem with the death counter was trying to place it in the video without covering too much space and also, you know, not being a distraction. Which is why I decided that from this point onward, when it comes to the death counter, I'm essentially going to combine the Alien Syndrome way, or the way I did it with Alien Syndrome, and the way I did it with Crash 3's Time Trial Relics. And basically, I'm going to show the death counter at the end of the video and showcasing the amount of times I died in the video. But in the next video, I will show the death counts I suffered in that video, but I'm also going to add them to an overall death count to show how many times I've died overall on the game. And I feel that that's the best compromise to include the death counter, even if, I died one time through the entire game. Now, what happens if I don't die during the playthrough? Then I guess I won't use it. Or maybe I just put death 0 at the end of the playthrough. I don't know. I haven't thought of it yet. And the second aspect I wanted to implement into the channel was the art I've been doing for the thumbnails. Now, this was a choice I made long before deciding what game I was going to start with, since I have a huge background of drawing, both in school and while studying animation. Drawing has always been a passion, and implementing it into the channel has been the most fun I've had making new art since my title project back in university. And essentially, these artworks are basically me, in huge quotation marks, cosplaying as one of the characters from the game I was tackling them. Which, at the end of the day, for less humanoid characters, or the early ones, it was basically me, the character, with my hair. I mean, look at Kirby. It's just Kirby with my hairstyle, or the hairstyle that I use for my anime itself. Except that instead of being pink, he's colored the exact same as as the shirt I use for my anime itself. Originality right there, folks. Now, because I decided to do Let's Plays, I knew that views would be average to basically none when starting, which is why I also decided to start a brand new series called Wolf Explains, which I started halfway through the year, where I just talk or complain about a specific topic and also implement myself in animated format. Even though there is little to no animation, but that's something I will improve. And this year I did 2 of these videos. One I have been thinking for years, which is the Nintendo Switch remakes, remasters, and ports, which has been something that I've been against and pretty much pissed off at for actually ever since DKC Tropical Freeze. So, Funky Kong is not worth 60. I'm sorry, guys. And then we have this one, which is a thing, and don't worry, we'll talk about it. So, those are the 2 elements that essentially became staples for the channel. But what about the games? Well, let's go and talk about them and explain why I did the games I did this year. Let's start at the beginning, with Crash Bandicoot 1 on the PlayStation 1. So yeah, here we go. The first game I did not only for this year, but for the channel, period. And, there might be people that say, why? Why start with this game out of all other games in the world? To be honest, before I started, I was debating if I should start with either Crash or Spyro actually. I was going to start with essentially one of the 2 platforming mascots that defined the PlayStation. And the reason I started with the orange rat instead of the purple dragon is mainly because I had more experience with Crash 1 over Spyro 1. Not to mention that I really didn't like Spyro 1. To be fair, I straight up don't like the first Spyro game. I would rather play Year of the Dragon. But another main reason as to why Crash is because Crash 1 is a very special game to me, since it was the first game that I was able to fully complete by myself. Past games I had help from my family, mainly my dad, since he was the one that got me into gaming. But for Crash 1, I was able to beat it with no help from other people or even the internet. And looking back at it, it feels really satisfying to beat a really hard game. In fact, one of my best memories with this game was playing the game at my grandparents' house while I was sick, at the same time as one of my sisters was celebrating her birthday outside. And I remember after a couple of attempts, I was finally able to beat and also get the color gem for Slippery Climb, which was a level I got stuck for hours and even days when I first played the game, only to get stuck and fumbling in the dark because my god, this level still sucks to this day. But for a first playthrough, Crash 1 was not that bad. In fact, looking back, I had a real fun time playing this game again, and yes, even though my mic got issues during the second half of the project, overall it was a great introduction to making videos and a good starting point for me, if I do say so myself. Now, instead of talking about every game individually, for the next 5 games, I'm going to combine them into one entry, mainly because these games were part of my childhood and I just wanted to relive them in some capacity. And those games are Stuart Little 2, Monsters Inc. Scare Island, Lilo and Stitch Trouble in Paradise, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, and finally Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. Now, to be fair, the first 4 games I mentioned were mainly for nostalgic purposes. While Toy Story 2, yes, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, I also did it because that game is awesome and everyone should play it if you haven't, because that is peak movie tie-in games. And speaking of which, this also marked the beginning of my never-ending quest to play as many movie tie-in games as possible. In fact, I played 6 of them. And to be fair, during the PlayStation 1 era, these games were, for the most part, really good. Now yes, some were more simple than others, like Stuart Little 2 and Lilo and Stitch, but overall, after making the playthroughs, I still had a lot of fun replaying these games that could be considered as hidden gems, like Monsters Inc. and, I'll even say it, Cyber Chase. I'll get in more detail about each playthrough when I get to the ranking part of the video, but overall these games, nostalgic yes, but I feel that I could have picked better games. And speaking of grouping games together, for this next entry I'm going to name games that I didn't grow up with, but I decided to tackle them mainly because I enjoyed the game after playing it while engaging with a wonderful website that has been the best and worst thing to come into my life. And those games are Donald Duck Going Quackers and Medieval. So for Donald Duck, I did the PS1 version mainly because for a while I thought that every other console version was the same, but as I discovered while editing the playthrough, this game has 5 different versions. We have the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the PlayStation 2 and GameCube being the same, the N64, Dreamcast, and PC version being the same, and then we have the PlayStation version, which is a standalone version, and it's also the version that I did for the channel. Now that being said, I did promise in text, I think, that I was going to tackle the other versions in the future. But as for the PlayStation version, overall it was a fun ride, especially since this was a game that I never owned, but I had friends who had the PC version while thinking it was the same version. And as for Medieval, the main reason I did this game was because I just love how the game looks. Aesthetically, this is one of my favorite games I've played this year for the channel. And yes, even though I could have done the remake on PS4, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter since it's the exact same game with one exception in the remake. But yeah, these 2 games I tackled them because my first time playing them, I had a blast and I wanted to do them in Let's Play form. Simple as that, which, you know, there's nothing wrong about that. Now, you may also notice that my first 10 Let's Plays are nothing but PlayStation 1 games. And that is mainly because I was originally going to do 10 PlayStation games, then 10 Nintendo games, and then start alternating them. Thank God I didn't do that because that would be very boring. Not to mention that when we arrived in October, I wanted to do a horror game and you can see that I broke my rule. But the original plan was to have the first 10 games to be PlayStation 1 games, since that it was the console that I grew up with, and basically it's the console that formed me into the gamer I am today. And while I was doing these other games, at the very least, for the first 10 Let's Plays, I wanted to cover the entire Crash trilogy, except that I was originally going to do them back to back. However, thank God I didn't do that because I was dreading Crash 3 for a very long time. And yes, it's all because of the goddamn time trial relics. I've said it many times and I'm gonna say it again, but the time trial relics are the absolute worst thing to ever be introduced into the series. But even though I despise the time trial relics, Crash 3 was by far one of the most enjoyable games I've done when it comes to the editing side. But yeah, those basically were the first 10 games I tackled for the channel. And I wanted to change the formula for a while, so from Let's Plays 11 to 16, I decided to do Nintendo games. Except that there was one exception. That being Alien vs. Predator Requiem for the PlayStation Portable. And I did mention this in the project, but the main reason as to why I did this game was because I wanted to celebrate my favorite month and my favorite holiday of the year, October and Halloween. So I decided to do a horror type game and went with AVP Requiem, even though the game continued into November, but that's besides the point. But as for Nintendo games, the first one I did was the very first Luigi's Mansion. And out of all the other Nintendo games I could have done, I decided to do this one because Luigi is my favorite Mario character and I wanted to give him the love and respect he deserves. In addition, this game is still one of my favorite games and easily one of the most replayable games for me thus far, which, you know, makes sense since before the project, I played through this game around 5 times because of a certain website consuming my gaming life forever. But then I decided to go the extra step and play as Luigi in New Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo DS. Now, yes, I did play as Mario, but don't watch that episode. It's bad. I sucked at that video. But another reason as to why I did New Super Mario Bros. Was also because this was the very first Mario game I've owned and beaten at the same time. It was also the first game since Crash 1 where I discovered most of the secrets by myself, like how to unlock Worlds 4 and 7, how to get certain star coins and most of the secret exits, and how to proceed in World 7's second half to head to the castle. Not to mention, with 4 other games with this new name tag and with Wonder being a clean slate for 2D Mario, I also wanted to see if this game's still good after 4 samey games and the release of Wonder. Spoilers, this game still rules, and I'm curious to see if Wii and Wii U are also good after all this time, since I haven't played them in forever. Now, if you've been subscribed for a while, you will see that I have a determined upload schedule, where I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. However, every once in a while, I will break my schedule to give you guys a special video, whether it's a compilation of a particular Let's Play, a Wolf Explains video, or in the case of special days, upload a project, which is why on Halloween Day, I decided to make a one-off video of a game that would take me 1 video to beat. And what better game to choose than Alien Syndrome on the NES? Joy. I'm not gonna lie, a part of me says that it would have been better, or it would have been a better idea to do the PS2 version from the Sega Classics collection, which is, without question, the definitive version to play the original title. But man, this game was such a pain. The first half is pretty enjoyable, but the moment you get to level 4, that's where hell breaks loose and the game just becomes cheap, annoying, and straight up bullshit. Not to mention that we got annoying enemy spawns, tiny bullets that you cannot see because of the background, and after a couple of game overs, back to the title screen, idiot, do it again. So yeah, in terms of playing the game, this was by far my least favorite game I did this year. Not to mention that it is the only game thus far where I actually used save states, which honestly I had no choice because yeah, this game infuriated me to no end. But now we move on to the final 2 games, those being Kirby's Dream Land and Metroid. So as I was doing these Nintendo playthroughs, a part of me would not be satisfied if I did a year of Let's Plays without having representation to at least one of my top 5 Nintendo franchises, those being Mario Party, Kirby, Pikmin, Mario and Luigi, and Metroid. And while I could have done all of them eventually, when planning the games I was going to tackle this year, I wanted to make sure that I ended every game before the new year. In other words, if I started a Let's Play, I wanted to end that Let's Play before 2025. So I decided to tackle more shorter games, and decided to go with Kirby and Metroid. Also, I guess I should mention this real quick, which I also did mention in the Metroid playthrough, but when doing franchises, I want to tackle them in chronological order, which is why I went with the original Metroid and not Zero Mission, which means that Zero Mission will essentially be done after Fusion, but before Dread, in case for those who are wondering. Or maybe remakes, I'll do them eventually, or out of order, since, you know, they're remakes, they're not part of the chronological order to some extent, so yeah, maybe I'll do an exception for remakes. But the most interesting and new aspect I did was making sure I practiced for Metroid, since the game is not beginner friendly and getting lost in that game is almost inevitable if it's your first time and you don't have a guide. Which is why I decided to practice Metroid and also write down notes to make my journey through Zebeth much easier in the long run. And another thing I did for this game was record an entire game in one session and then split the recording into 4 equal parts. Something that for games that don't have a save system or a convoluted save system, I will be doing stuff like that again. And yes, I could have used save states, but honestly that ruins the game for me, since if I make a mistake, I can just load it back to a safer spot, which is why I really didn't like Alien Syndrome and the original extra game run from Kirby's Dream Land, which it doesn't exist, but it is something that I could have done better. And there we go. That is every game I did this year for the channel. Now yes, we also have the Wolf Explain videos, which We will get there. But overall, I did like the selection of games that I chose for this year, for the most part. But I also did enjoy the artwork that I did for them. So now that we talked about them, let's rank all 16 games I did from the channel, from my least favorite all the way to my favorite. For this ranking, I'll be ranking each Let's Play by answering 2 questions. The first one being, how much did I enjoy playing the game and recording in it? And the second question is, how much did I enjoy editing the video? So yeah, for these ranking, I'm going to essentially ranking them whether I like them editing and playing them overall. Now, the editing section is going to be less important than the playing and recording, but I'm going to also put the editing criteria because I feel that the editing also makes or breaks the videos. Some are more edited than others. I totally understand that, but with that said, let's go into this ranking. Coming in last place, we have Alien Syndrome. Now, Alien Syndrome overall was the most frustrating game to play. I'm not going to get into too much details as to why, but if you watch the videos, you know exactly why. But these will be very general rankings. But last place, Alien Syndrome, mainly because it was the most frustrating game to play. Next up, we have Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which the main reason as to why is this low is because I basically shoehorned this game into the Let's Plays that I was going to do this year, because I was originally going to do another game that was exactly 14 episodes. However, when I decided to do a horror game for October, I ultimately just went with this game since I knew I could beat it in 15 videos. Now, yes, it was one more video, which meant that Metroid would be 4 episodes instead of 5. But at the end of the day, I feel that it wasn't the end of the world, but yeah, this game was essentially shoehorned. Not to mention that it was a semi-blind run, which there were a lot of points where playing the game where the editing was a bit boring for me, and I did mention that the editing is not going to be a major criteria, but I will still talk about it because at the end of the day, it was something that did affect the playthrough in the long run, since I did not know how to make it more funny, even though I'm not funny. But moving on from AVP Requiem, we have Stuart Little 2. Now, the bottom 3 games have something in common, and that's the fact that there is one thing wrong with each game. So for Alien Syndrome, it was the most annoying one to play. For AVP Requiem, it was the most annoying one to edit. And for Stuart Little 2, it was the most annoying one to record because so many freaking recording issues. Episode 1, I had to edit the entire video because my mic sounded like if I was peaking it every single time, to the point that I almost went deaf while editing it. Episode 3, my sentences were cut off at the end, and then the penultimate video, the music overpowers my voice, which is pretty annoying. Now, to be completely fair, when I did Stuart Little 2, and to an extension the first 5 games, I recorded them all using OBS. This was before I used Audition to record my commentary separately. But yeah, I feel that it was a bit of my fault to some extent. But then again, that was my second playthrough, and the Crash 1 Let's Play was pretty good, all things considered. But yeah, I feel that I should have redone this game again, knowing or seeing all of these errors. But moving on from Stuart Little 2, we're going to have a 3-way tie between Lilo and Stitch, Trouble in Paradise, Monsters Inc. Scare Island, and Donald Duck Going Quackers. Now, the reason why these games are tied is mainly because of the fact that these games are overall basically, in terms of recording, editing, and playing, it was basically the same quality, which not that high of quality, but they were very generic Let's Plays, so to speak. Now, that's not to say that's a bad thing, but it pretty much shows that there is definite room for improvement, which I'm slowly starting to gain, especially after New Super Mario Bros., which we will get to that game. But yeah, overall, these 3 games, I would rank them together mainly because they were basically pretty much the same. Although if I had to rank them from least to best, I would go with Lilo and Stitch at the bottom, Monsters Inc. in the middle, and Donald Duck in the top. And the reason why this order is because overall, Donald Duck was the most fun, at least for the second half and a little bit of World 2, while Monsters Inc. and Lilo and Stitch was a bit weak even though there were some very funny moments, like me dying at the end of the Cobra stage and me dying when I was showcasing the time trial. But in terms of editing, it was probably my least favorite of the three. But overall, these three will go together, and honestly, depending how I feel and looking back, I would just change the order, to be completely honest. But moving on to the top 10, we have Luigi's Mansion, and I really hate to put this game this low, and that's mainly because of the fact that Luigi's Mansion was a game that I've played around five times before I essentially did the Let's Play, which was the 6th time I played the game. And yeah, a part of me kind of regrets I did that, because there was this issue that there were a lot of things that happened on my previous runs that were pretty jaw-dropping. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to replicate them on the original playthrough. Now, to be fair, when I did those 5 playthroughs, I'd play through the PAL version instead of the American version. And for the playthrough, I did the American version. And of course, the main reason as to why is because you can actually get the perfect ending, or the best ending, in the normal American mansion instead of going to the hidden mansion, which it's good, since I wanted to showcase everything. And there is room for improvement. In fact, I might even do, I did say this, but I might even do the 3DS version just to showcase some stuff in there, even though I did address a lot of aspects of the 3DS version in the finale. I don't know, Luigi's Mansion, I feel that basically the lesson I learned from this game, or for this playthrough, is that practicing games or replaying the same game multiple times will ruin the magic. Which is why I do not practice games before doing a Let's Play, which basically sounds very contradicting considering I did that for Metroid, but we'll get to Metroid later. Alright, moving on next, we have Medieval. Now, Medieval, out of all the games in this list so far, this one was the first game where I actually had a lot of fun editing it. Now, of course, there's also games like Crash 2, which we will get to them, but in the terms of this ranking, all the other games were okay to edit. Luigi's Mansion was also fun, but it was a bit boring, since I think I've played the game way too safe to some extent. But for Medieval, this is the first game in this list that actually was a lot of fun to edit. And there were also a lot of cool and funny moments, and which at the same time meant frustrating moments, like me not getting the chalice in the lake for 2 whole runs of the level, which was very, very annoying. Or me dying and not saving, meaning that I had to redo the previous level again, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, overall, Medieval was a really fun game, and I'm really excited to get into the sequel as well as the PSP reboot, because I saw that the PSP remake is not the same game, which I'm actually interested in seeing how much did they change, which makes me excited. But going at number 8, we have Metroid. Now, this one, I feel that this one was a bit boring looking back, but after I edited it, I gotta admit that this playthrough was not that bad, all things considered. Now, yes, I did play it very safe, and I also had the game fresh in my mind from practicing it literally the day after, or the day before I record. However, considering the fact that Metroid is a guide game, I feel that practicing and also establishing a route is the better option instead of just having 20 episodes of me just running around in circles and forgetting where I am. So, I wanted to get things moving, and also I guess you could say that this is the first instance that instead of doing a Let's Play, I basically did something kind of similar to a walkthrough. And the line between Let's Play and walkthrough is very thin, but the way I see it, Let's Play is something that I will play and I will just commentate and also share some stuff about the game, kind of similar to Chugga Conroy. However, walkthrough is something more of a in-depth guide, even though I kind of combine both, which it's something I want to do because I don't want to be like the monotone walkthrough guy. Except that is something I'm gonna do for next year, but more on that later. But yeah, overall, for the first game of my favorite Nintendo franchise, I still had a lot of fun with this game, and for the fact that I almost had Mother Brain freaking toast, it was actually pretty enjoyable. And I also love to showcase a bunch of, sequence breaks, which makes me really excited for when I eventually get to Super Metroid, since, oh boy, that game's gonna be a lot of fun. Moving on to number 7, we have Toy Story 2, and out of all the games so far, this was the most fun game to play. I love this game, and honestly, the reason it's this high is just because this game to this day is still really good, and I just have a lot of fun. Now, yes, there are annoying moments like alleys and gullies, and elevator hop if you're going for the mice, but other than that, the game is still one of the best PlayStation licensed or movie tie-in games of all time, and it is definitely a game that everyone should play no matter what. Even if you don't like Toy Story, this is a game that you should definitely enjoy because it is a fantastic platformer collectathon in an era where, collectathons were striving, or thriving, whatever you want to say it. Alright, so next up we have a bit of a tie between Crash Bandicoot 1 and Crash Bandicoot 2. Now, yes, the reason why I'm putting these two together is because, to be completely honest, I don't know how to rank these. I would honestly put, depending how, just like the tie between Lilo and Stitch, Monster Inc., and Donald Duck, depending my mood, I would actually put Crash 1 above Crash 2 or Crash 2 above Crash 1, which is a bit of a, it pretty much shows that I did a pretty good job. Now, that being said, I'm actually going to put Crash 2 above because something happened that I never thought it was going to happen with Crash 2, and that's the fact that when I played Crash 2, I enjoyed the game more than what I did last time. And that's actually a very rare occasion when I play a game and I don't enjoy it, but then I replay it again, and the more I replay it, the more I start to appreciate it and start to love it. And this happened to me with what would essentially be my second favorite game of the Tomb Raider franchise, Tomb Raider 3, because, yeah, a bit of a history, just to quickly summarize. But when I first played Tomb Raider 3, I hated the game. But after replaying it more and more, I actually started to appreciate it and really love it, to the point that it became my second favorite Tomb Raider game, below Tomb Raider 2, but yeah, overall, Crash Bandicoot 2, I had a lot of fun. And Crash 1, there were also a lot of good moments, like me not dying on the bridge level, which I still don't understand how that happened. And, even though we had issues in the second half with my mic, overall, the game was still a lot of fun, and it was actually nice to replay the original Crash trilogy. And, even though Crash 2, I still think that the level design is worse than Crash 1, especially with the stupid amount of backtracking, Crash 2 did surprise me, and I'm actually interested in seeing that if I replay it again, am I going to enjoy it more? But moving on to the next Let's Play, we have at number 4, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. And honestly, this one was the first Let's Play where I got confident in talking about topics outside of the game. Now granted, the topics were on only 2 videos, as far as I remember. I mean, we had episode 2 with the Scooby-Doo movie talk, and the finale, which was the Disney talk, where I basically talked about me watching a bunch of Disney movies back to back because I had no care for my mind, because man, I lost my mind watching the damn sequels. I'm still not healed after Belle's Magical World, so there you go. Disney, you've officially gave me mental damage with that movie. But jokes aside, this game was overall a really fun game, and yes, even though it has a lot of problems, especially with the controls, this game was the first one where I actually was starting to feel a bit much more confident when it came to talking topics outside of the game, which is something that I want to master next year. And yeah, let's see how I do, because when you play and talk at the same time, it's much more difficult than you expect. And I know this because I played 16 of these damn games for this year. But moving on to the top 3, or moving on to number 3, we have Kirby's Dream Land. And honestly, the reason why this game is this high is because of Extra Game. Extra Game essentially made this playthrough for me, which is really funny because the original version of Extra Game was pretty bad. In fact, if I decided to stick with the Extra Game, with the original Extra Game recording, I would have put this game alongside Alien Syndrome and Alien vs. Predator. That's how bad it was. But Kirby's Dream Land, even the main game was still a lot of fun, considering the fact that I died 3 times, which I also died 3 times in Extra Game, so I guess it was perfect. But yeah, Kirby's Dream Land was a very fun game, and the fact that and honestly, it's the game where it had the most highlights overall, in my opinion. Now, well, at least out of all the games I've covered so far in this ranking. But for our runner-up, we have Crash Bandicoot 3. Yes, surprisingly, my least favorite game of the trilogy is my favorite game that I did for the channel, which honestly, the main reason as to why this is high up is mainly because of the editing. Out of all the Let's Plays I've talked about so far, this was the most fun game that I did when it came to the editing. I had a lot of funny gags. There were a lot of funny gags. The time trial videos were a chore and a half, to the point that it took me literally a day to export each one. So yeah, it shows that I need to get a new computer. But overall, Crash 3, despite the fact that it's still to this day my least favorite of the trilogy, editing wise, it was the most fun, and honestly, that is the best redeeming quality when it comes to Crash 3, which is pretty ironic considering that, you know, I will say it again, the time trial relics are the worst aspect of the Crash Bandicoot series. But coming in number 1, we have the most fun I had playing, recording, and editing, and that is New Super Mario Bros. I had a feeling that this game was going to be number 1 because there were a lot of highlights in the game, like all of the fail platforming, all of the very stupid deaths that I suffered with Mario, all of the close calls that I suffered during World 8 and other worlds, the challenging platforming, the really good level design, and the fact that this game still holds up today. It's still pretty amazing that this game is not talked about more than usual, which is really weird. But overall, New Super Mario Bros. Was definitely a game that I really enjoyed, and I'm actually excited to cover future Mario games since next year we're actually going to be getting into my 25th Let's Play, and I want to do something special every 25 games that we cover in the channel, and it will be involved with Mario, and it's not gonna be exactly Mario, but you'll see when we get there. But overall, New Super Mario Bros. Was definitely the most fun I've had, and it's easily my favorite game that I tackled for the channel this year. And that does it for the Let's Plays. However, we're still not done with the rankings yet, because I still want to rank another aspect of the Let's Plays, and that is the artwork. Now, this is going to be a much shorter ranking, since the basic criteria for this ranking is how much did I enjoy making the art, and how well does it look overall. So yeah, basically this is going to be a very short one, so let's just do some quick rankings. Number 16, Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Out of all the arts, this is definitely the most lame one, mainly because of the fact that I use art from a previous Let's Play and just half of my face. You can tell that this one was shoehorned. Number 15, Donald Duck Going Quackers. Number 14, Lilo and Stitch Trouble in Paradise. Number 13, Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. And number 12, Kirby's Dream Land. The reason I'm putting all of these together, it's mainly because of the fact that it's just the character, but with my face. I will give credit to Kirby's Dream Land mainly because of the extra game art that I did, because it's the more beat up, and the fact that this is also the only time so far that I've done 2 different artwork for a same Let's Play, and trust me, it won't be the last. Number 11, Luigi's Mansion. The one thing I don't like about this one is Luigi's face, or I should say my face, because it's very stretchy, not to mention that my hair is not present, and the hair is always a trademark at this point. Number 10, Crash Bandicoot. And number 9, Stuart Little 2. Basically, these two were the first artworks I did, and I basically draw them asking myself, what if I was the character? And basically, it's just the character with skin tone instead of the actual tone of the character. And I did some creative liberties, like adding a shirt to Crash and give a tongue to Stuart Little, because I don't know, I haven't seen a tongue with him. But overall, these ones were just the most simple ones, and you can tell these were made first because these are the only ones where I actually added the logo to the character. Number 8, Alien Syndrome. This was definitely the best part of the Alien Syndrome playthrough, but the hardest part about this one was trying to find an actual model to work with, since, you know, how can I work with 8-bit characters? But of course, I also used promotional material, so that it's not the end of the world. Number 7, Crash Bandicoot 3. Honestly, the bike just saves it all. I just love the way I drew the bike, and the shadow work is also really cool. Number 6, Medieval. This is the only arc in this entire list where I actually posed for it, and I actually really enjoy the final result, except for the fact that drawing hands is still one of the most impossible things I can do when it comes to drawing. Number 5, Crash Bandicoot 2. Out of all the Crash ones, this one was definitely my favorite, mainly because of the fact that for Crash 1 and Crash 3, I basically took the box art and I just modeled it after me. However, this time, I decided to do something a little bit more freedom and actually use something that is not part of the box art. And that is being Crash with the jetpack, since you see Crash on a jetpack when you put up the game. So I thought that was actually a neat little touch that I added. Number 4, New Super Mario Bros. To be completely honest, this one should be alongside the ranks of Donald Duck and to Kirby, but I just love the way it looks. And also I showed the hair, and that's the best part because it's the best part of me, I guess. I'm not a narcissist, I swear. Number 3, Metroid. Honestly, this is my favorite one that I've done when it comes to the Nintendo ones, mainly because of the fact that A, I love Metroid, and also I wanted to implement the Android discussion when it came to Metroid, since when Metroid first came out, Samus was either depicted as a he or as a robot. And of course, I had to add the trademark Terminator red eye, so it was a given. But yeah, overall, this was my favorite Nintendo art, and I can bet you that I'm very excited to get to the other Metroid games. Number 2, Monsters Inc. Scare Island. This is the only art that is actually original, not taken from any other media. This is the only art that was actually original and made from scratch. And I gotta say, this demonic dragon looked and still looks very freaking awesome. And I'm gonna use this thing in future playthroughs. You can bet your ass I'm gonna do it. I just love how this thing looks. It is such a badass look. And yeah, I'm actually interested in seeing how else I'm going to use it. Number 1, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. When I first did this, I immediately said to myself, oh yeah, this looks fucking badass. And this has been, thus far, my favorite art that I've done thus far. Even the art that I've done for the project next year doesn't compare to the Phantom Virus from Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. This is without question my favorite art that I've done, and easily one that I can see myself reusing a lot. Which, you know, it's actually good since I used it for Luigi's Mansion and that other video that, yes, we will get to it. But with that ranking out of the way, there is one more thing to talk about when it comes to the channel. And that is the non-Let's Play videos. In other words, the Wolf Explain videos. So I wanted to implement more animation into my videos, but I thought that the best way to do it is to just create a brand new series where I just talk about specific topics, whether it's video game related or share some personal experiences. And this year, I made 2 of them. For the first video, I decided to vent my frustrations towards Nintendo and simply complain and basically rate every single Nintendo Switch remaster, remake, and port that has come out for the Switch ever since its release back in 2017. And overall, this was, without question, my favorite video that I worked on this year. I had a lot of fun just implementing my posts in my animated persona, and I had a lot of fun ranting on a bunch of stuff, like how the Joy-Cons are Nintendo's worst controllers to date, or how Strikers Battle League is is one of the biggest disappointments since the new Star Wars trilogy, which yes, that's a bit of an exaggeration. There are worse things than the Star Wars trilogy. So, and the third rant that I don't remember. Oh yeah, the fact that New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe got more marketing than the Bowser Inside Story remake, which caused Alpha Dream to go bankrupt. So thanks for that, Nintendo. But yeah, overall, this video was definitely my favorite one, which yes, we have to update it because Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming, but I'm definitely gonna do a part 2 when we get, give or take, 5 years into the Switch's successor, or who knows, maybe I'll do it when we get the next remake and just do mini reviews of them. Who knows? Because I don't. But then we also have the second Wolf Explain video that I did, and you know, it was okay, I guess. Although now that I look back, oh man, if I could delete this, I would do it immediately. Okay, it's time to address this. So, the boyfriend effect video. When I uploaded this back then, I didn't expect that it would be filled with controversy and have a lot of discussion in the comments. I thought it was gonna be like a silly video that I'm just being stupid and all that. But now that I posted it a couple of weeks later, I'm starting to see the error of my mistakes. In fact, as I'm writing this script, I haven't responded to anyone in the comments section, which is a rare occasion since I love reading comments. I love responding to them, and I always give them a heart, no matter the comment. Well, unless it's an offensive or discriminatory one, in which case I will either not respond it or straight up delete it, depending on the context. Now, I did respond to them during Christmas week, but the reason it took me this long is because I wanted to see A, I wanted to see what people thought of it, and B, I wanted to make sure that I was in the right mindset to respond to the comments. And all the responses I've seen with that video are something that needed to be discussed in a video. In fact, I wanted to make a separate video basically addressing this video. However, I thought it would be better to use this recap as a quote-unquote excuse to talk about this, except that this was a major talking point that I wanted to address no matter what. I wanted to address this before the next year, and well, here it is. So, to put this simply, I made a mistake. I fucked up. I should have thought of this better. After reading all the comments, rewatching the video with a new perspective and mindset, and watching it and talking about it with a bunch of professionals, I wish someone would just punch me in the face and tell me to look at the bigger picture. Because I've noticed that when it came to this video, the only one that had problem was me. It was 1000% a me problem, and something that I never realized that I needed to think about this and look at a bigger picture. Looking back, when I wrote this script for this mistake, which yes, I will say it, this video was a huge mistake. I was stuck with this tunnel vision in this one aspect, to the point that I never thought of the consequences that it could bring both to me and people around me. I always thought of the worst outcome in people when it came to not only this effect, but people in general, which ended up hurting in the long run. Now, the reason why I always had this mindset of thinking the worst out of situations is mainly because of the fact that I grew up suffering a lot of bullying back in middle school and even high school. So I always, for lack of a better term, hid myself in a shell and just thought that everyone and everything would be against me, which that was a huge mistake. And thankfully, in my last years of high school and university, I started to open up and become better with interacting with people, which it's been great. But at the same time, I feel that this has given me a tunnel vision that I wish I could just get rid of. And I also want to address something that has been mentioned in a couple of comments, not all of them, but two, but I still wanted to address it. But there were comments that discussed the possibility that my behavior and the way I talked in the video might turn into misogyny. And I want to clear it for the record that I am not a misogynist. I care and respect for women in every way possible, to the point that I have never said or never done anything against women in my entire life. In fact, a huge reason as to why I started the Polyart project that I mentioned in that video was because I wanted to give love and appreciation to all the women that I've met in my life, whether it's family, friends from life, friends that I met on college, friends that I met on school, friends that I met at a party, people that I met for just one day and that's it, or people that I met over social media, never met on person. I basically did this project to show appreciation for all the people that enter my life in a good way. And if this video showed the opposite of my love and appreciation, I deeply apologize, and I promise that I will do better when it comes to future videos. Now, one of the first comments I got in this video gave me the advice to send this video to a therapist since it shows my mindset when dealing with this scenario. Well, a week after the video went up, I decided to call one of my best friends who studied therapy, and we got together and I showed her the video. And after that, we talked for a couple of hours. Now, yes, I also talked to other people that are more professionals, so to speak, so I can have different points of view and different discussions about my mindset back then. So I didn't just did one just to get it over with. No, I took this controversy, which I don't think that's the right word, but I took this discussion seriously and I wanted to improve on myself and see, if I can do better. But after some time reflecting and literally recording this at the last moment possible, I came to the conclusion that I need to stop. I need to stop having this negative mindset that everything will go crumbling down and start to think on a positive way towards people and towards me in general. I need to stop being in this tunnel vision and I need to start just looking at stuff at a bigger picture. Looking at the bigger picture is the most important thing that I've learned and something that I need to start doing. Otherwise, I would be the same, if not worse. Now, yes, regarding the video, if friends get a partner, it's not the end of the world if she reduces communication. It's not the end of the world, and I should stop overreacting at a bunch of pointless, stupid stuff. And as I'm recording the voiceover of this video, I've been taking walks with my dog, I've started meditating, and I've started talking with some people and friends, which made me have a clear and a more healed mind for almost a month at this point. And it has felt so great. And after some time, I've been a lot better in my mind. And now I feel like this mistake is just the rants of an idiot and a reminder of someone who I'm not anymore, to the point that I might just get rid of this literal stain on the channel as of now. But then we go to the biggest issue about the video overall, and that being why. Why make the video and post it to the channel anyway? To be completely honest, I have no idea anymore. I thought I knew, but I don't know anymore. A part of me regrets posting that video to the point that I want to make it private or straight up delete it, which I might do during January. But a part of me is also thankful that I posted this because now I came to realize that the true problem in this story is me. And I need to change my way and perspective towards people. And I'm thankful for that. I am now on a better, or I have now a better mind, and I feel great as of late. I will do better. I promise that I will do better, and I will make sure that videos like these never happen again for as long as I decide to make content in this channel. But I also want to thank you for the comments that opened my eyes and gave me a new approach to this situation and made me start to, well, start over. Start over on the way I think, the way I interpret situations, and the way I decide to clear my mind and start having a positive mindset in the long run. And I will be forever thankful for that. And now, that being said, looking back at this mistake, there are two positive things that came with it. The first aspect is that I have a lot of art that I can work with in future of these videos, including my evil persona, which will be a death to my throat when I decide to use it. But the best outcome is that I now have a better mindset, and I've started to feel better because of it. I feel great. I feel like a burden left my body, and this hate, so to speak, is no longer existing in me, and that feels great. Now, that being said, I will still continue to heal, and it's not going to be a one-off situation. I want to try to do better, and I don't want to try. I will do better, and this will be something that I will work on during I almost said winter, but no, this is the summer. Because I live in the South Hemisphere. But one last thing about this subject before we put it to rest, and I don't want to say hopefully never talk about it, because I feel that this essentially became a stain that, like I mentioned, I want to get rid of. But one last thing about this subject is that I decided that the personal wolf explained videos will be more, for a lack of a better term, friendly, have a more fun approach, and also show these stupid and funny moments in my life. In fact, I can tell you that my next personal video will be about how I got my very first phone, which is a very interesting story, because I feel that my family was forced to give me a phone after what I did to justify me getting it. And because I want to make these videos more animated, I decided to make and release the personal wolf explain videos at the very least every December. In other words, I'm going to try to do one every year and try to work throughout the entire year as I work on other games whatsoever. Now, of course, depending on the video, it might take me longer, but at the end of the day, I want to try to release it throughout the month. But yeah, that's basically everything that I wanted to talk about when it came to this video. And for anyone who felt that I was like making like bad signs towards someone, or I was talking trash to people with that video, I deeply apologize. I'm sorry. I want to atone for my sins, and I'm not like other, people that they go like, oh, I'm sorry, we're just going to move on from that and forget about it. No. I want to make sure that I wanted to address this situation, because it has affected me ever since I posted it back in Thursday of December, or back in the first week of December, because during the weekend after the video went up, it has been a burden that I wanted to just lift out, but I needed time. I needed time to reflect, and I feel better now. In fact, I could even say I feel fantastic. I feel healed. Although, again, because the video is still up, it almost feels like a grim reminder of someone I used to be, which I'm trying to forget. Which is why I mentioned that maybe during January I will delete the video. Now, Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know, but I guess time will tell. So, with all of that addressed, let's get to the end of this recap. And before I announce some things that will come next year, let's talk about games I played in my spare time. Now, this part won't take too long, but essentially I want to give awards to 3 specific games that I played this year. So first off is my favorite game of the year, and basically this award will go to, well, my favorite game that I played that came out this year. Except that there is one problem. Out of all the games that came out this year, I've only played 2 of them. Those being the Tomb Raider Trilogy Remastered and Mario & Luigi Brothership. And before you ask, yes, I have played Shadows of the Erdtree, but no, I'm not counting it as a new game. It's DLC, which means that you need the base game to enjoy it, which means that, in order to play this downloadable content, you need the Game of the Year of 2022 to actually play it. So yeah, fuck you, Game Awards, make a DLC category. But that being said, I honestly can give the award to one over the other because, truth be told, both these games are a literal dream come true. Never in my life would I have imagined that we would get a full remasters of what honestly are the best Tomb Raider games of all time and top tier video games of all time. So yes, fuck you, Crystal, your 2013 trilogy is garbage. And with the next trilogy coming in literally a month and a half, I am so excited and so happy that we now have a modern and easier way to play not only these games, but also a more accessible and legal way to play the PC exclusive content, those being the gold expansions for the first 3 games, and the Times exclusive level for Tomb Raider 4. Now yes, the second trilogy is not out yet, but it has been confirmed that the Times exclusive level will be released with the remasters. And as for Brothership, oh my god, this was another dream come true. Because after the death of Alpha Dream, I was ready to admit that this franchise was considered a now dead franchise, joining the ranks of F-Zero, Star Fox, and Kid Icarus, never getting another game, period. But after the RPG and Thousand Year Door remakes, I was starting to get a glimmer of hope and prayed for a Mario & Luigi revival. Whether it's a new game, or just all 5 games ported into one, anything Mario & Luigi related, I would be happy. And then we got it, which is a brand new game, which, comes to show that Mario & Luigi is better than Paper Mario, because Paper Mario, you get a remake, but Mario & Luigi, we get a new game, baby. Now yes, because it's a Mario & Luigi game, the beginning can and will be slow, but once you reach the second area of the game, that's when the game really starts to pick up. But then again, that's basically a Mario & Luigi staple. I mean, hell, Dream Team is my favorite Mario & Luigi game, and that game is Tutorial the video game, starring Mario & Luigi. But yeah, after my first playthrough, I can easily place Brothership in the top half of my list of Mario & Luigi games. If I had to say right now, I would put it in between Superstar Saga Remake and Paper Jam. And yes, I actually do like Paper Jam, shut up. The second award goes to God of War 2 for being my favorite new old game that I played this year. So yeah, basically I'm giving this award to the best game that I've played that came out in years prior. However, I want to give it a range, and as of now it's going to be games from, when it comes to home consoles, the PlayStation 2 backwards, and handheld games would be the DS backwards. Maybe next year I'll include the 3DS because 3DS is one of my favorite consoles of all time, so I don't know. But essentially when it comes to the best old game that I played this year, I'm giving it to God of War 2. As someone who grew up in a household with a lot of restrictions when it came to buying specific games, for example, my dad had a strict rule of not buying mature games if it involved killing humans, which, looking back, it was very ridiculous, especially considering that we always bought it the newest Call of Duty game. We also had games like Rainbow Six, Vegas. And the funniest part about all of this is that when I played Killzone for the first time, he mentioned that it's a game about killing robots. So for years, I thought the Hellghast were robots. So, it was fun. It was funny. I gotta admit, it was really funny. But after finally playing through the first God of War game last year, this year I decided to play through its second game, and oh my god, this game blew my socks off. The combat is better. The locations, like the Steeds of Time, the Island of Creation are breathtaking. The music, oh my god, it's so good. I could listen to Typhon's theme for hours. And the story and the bosses are 10 times better than the first game. And yeah, that ending, even though it's a freaking cliffhanger because, you know, it's a franchise now, the beginning of the end is such a good cliffhanger. And I am so excited to play God of War 3 and see if it's better than 2, which, you know, God of War 2 is already my favorite game. I can honestly say God of War 2 is my favorite God of War game, since even though I've only played 2 God of War games before, which were the first one and Dad of Boy, which I don't like. That's coming, but I'll probably do it next year and see if, you know, God of War 3 is better than 2. Because, man, 2 is such a high standard for me. And finally, I want to give the award to the best game that I played this year. Now, yes, even though God of War 2, the Tomb Raider remasters, and Brothership were fantastic games, I still want to give this award to a game that made me obsessed for almost 4 months. And a game that I've literally replayed 4 times in a row just because of how incredibly amazing the game is. Which, you know, for a ROM hack, it's not that bad. And that game is Super Mario Eclipse. If I have to summarize this game in one sentence, this game is essentially the Super Mario 64 DS of Sunshine. New original courses, 2 new playable characters, enhanced controls, and fixed issues from the base game, which is funny because they actually fixed the pachinko level, which completely threw me off guard, which is really funny because I died more times in Eclipse's pachinko level than the original game since I got so used to the physics of the pachinko level in the original Sunshine. But yeah, enhanced controls and fixed bugs from the original game. Amazing new music tracks. Like seriously, I could listen to Vaporwave stage for hours. 2 post-game areas, which it's basically a post-game and then we have a post-game for the post-game. It sounds stupid, but trust me, it is completely worth it. Go for 100%. But yeah, essentially this makes it the definitive way to play Mario Sunshine, which, you know, Sunshine is already my favorite 3D Mario game, and having a ROM hack that expands on the game and then some is just incredible. And even if you don't like Sunshine, I encourage everyone to go out and play this amazing game. You're not gonna regret it. Even though not having a list of all the levels is a bit annoying. And also begs to ask the question, okay, did I got everything here? Did I get everything here? So yeah, maybe in a future update, or maybe they already did, considering that, you know, I haven't touched the game for a while. But yeah, essentially, this game is awesome. Go play it. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with this recap video. I know that this was a bit longer than what I expected, but I wanted to explain the boyfriend video controversy, and also this is my first year, so there was going to be a lot of introductory stuff needed to be explained. Which now begs the question, what's next for 2025? Well, I do have 2 new things planned for the new year that I want them to become part of the channel. And the first thing I want to do is streaming. As of 2022, I discovered a wonderful but also evil website that has essentially consumed my gaming life for years, all the way up to now. And it literally became an addiction, but in the good way to anyone who gets concerned. And I was thinking of a good way to implement to show this addiction into the channel. And I was thinking for a bit, but then I told myself, oh wait a minute, I can just stream them. But I didn't want to experiment with streaming in my first year. And now that I'm more comfortable making videos, I feel that it's time we go on the other side of YouTube, content creation. And yes, I said YouTube, meaning that I will be streaming here on YouTube when I eventually do it. Now, I don't have the exact day as to when, but give or take, I will start streaming around the second half of next year. And like I said, I will start streaming here on YouTube, which eventually I could go to Twitch or make hybrid stream, but I would rather have all my content in one place for everyone to enjoy, that being YouTube, even though yes, I could upload the VODs, but just in case. And then we have the second type of content, which relates to the big project that I've been teasing for months at this point. Now, I'm not going to reveal what it is in this video, since the project will begin literally tomorrow as you're watching this. Yes, tomorrow, January 1st. But to give you some hints, I will be tackling multiple games in a row from one of my favorite gaming franchises, period. My second favorite, to be precise. Or hell, my favorite one, depending my mood. And to give another hint of what this would be, the first game in the series was the very first game I've ever played. And finally, it has been a series that I've mentioned multiple times in my videos, so let's see if you can guess it before the video comes up tomorrow. So, as we finally end this recap, I want to thank every single one of you for enjoying my first year on YouTube. Even though the end of it had some huge talking points, still, I want to thank you all for the comments you've left on my videos, all the likes, and of course, all of those who decided to stick around by clicking the subscribe button. You guys are the best, and I'm so glad that I decided to start this YouTube journey because it has given me excuses to replay some classic games that I adore, make stupid essay videos, and also, which is the best outcome, make my mind be in a better place than ever before. YouTube can be a stressful journey, but I feel that, while doing the videos has been very relaxing for me, all things considered. And now that I have a better mindset compared to back in November, I feel a lot better, and I promise to do better next year. And you know what? This black logo is cool and all for my profile picture, but I think it needs something extra. How about, there we go. And you know what? Let's also upgrade the banner. Yeah, that's more like it. So yeah, I felt like it was time for a makeover so that people can see my animated self when they find my channel. And also take a look at some games I did based on the artwork, even though this will be changing a lot, which, you know, starting streaming, I'm gonna change it again. So yay for more work. But that's it for now. That's it for this video. And that's it for this year. Thank you all so much. And I will see you tomorrow for the beginning of 2025 and the beginning of something new and beautiful. See you guys then, and have a happy new year, everyone.